People of the world, hello and welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. I happen to be your host, your substitute teacher for today, Mr. Kautzman, episode 117. Can you over-target ads? Everyone thinks it's this miracle that you can target whoever you want, but is it really for the best? TikTok to surpass 1 billion users. Oh me, oh my. Superbowl ads during COVID. Are the big advertisers going to spend as much money as they did before or not? Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest advertising growth in 2021. Are they growing? Are they shrinking? And if so, by how much? Facebook extends their political ad ban even into these Georgia runoff elections. And TikTok's savvy court maneuvers keeping them alive. Speaking of live, we are live. Show starts now. So, can you over-target ads? This from Forbes.com. All links to all the articles that we talk about are right there in the description if you want to check them out. Jerry Dakin, the EMEA Senior Media Director at GSK, put it best, quote, over-targeting the scourge of marketing in a tweet. That's a great way to summarize what advertisers have been misled to believe by ad tech companies that were selling data and targeting services. If you think about this one for a second, you realize that, quote, over-targeting makes no sense. Targeting and retargeting ads to people who've already been introduced to the brand, visited the brand website, or even purchased from the brand are more likely to hit repeat sales, etc. So over the last 10 years, the pendulum has swung too far to the, quote, digital as hyper-targeting side of things at the expense of brand advertising that makes the other 99%. Okay, so what is the deal here? If you are a small business and you are looking to, let's say, retarget your audience, there's nothing wrong with that. They come to your website and you're now showing them banner ads. But here's an example of where it goes south. Let's say you're writing a bunch of blogs and you write a blog post, how to fix a specific kind of leaky faucet, the Moen 4200 XPQ, and you rank for that. Great. So let's say you're getting 30, 50, 70 visits a day for that particular blog post. And now you're retargeting to all those people. Those people might be in Nashville and you're in Minnesota. So retargeting in that kind of environment doesn't make any sense. There are personal injury attorneys that want to target around hospitals. Is that too much? Is that over targeting? Maybe, maybe not. I think the argument here is sort of a yin-yang balance argument, which is to say that if you only focus on people that are precisely in your wheelhouse, you're not really reaching out to those that don't know about your product or service. For the longest time, the opposite was true. There was no way to hyper-target. You simply couldn't do it. Now, hyper-targeting is very easy to do on Facebook and Google. It just happens to be, at least in the case of Google, expensive. So when someone's searching on Google and they're looking for the specific thing, quote for car insurance, whatever, because everyone wants that click, it's really expensive. So if you were to go to Facebook and run a campaign for the kind of demographic that you're looking for, well, the problem there is that people are on Facebook not to necessarily purchase things. So they're not necessarily in the buying pattern. So trying to find that perfect blend of Facebook demographic targeted ads, retargeting once they've actually gone to the website, retargeting them on Facebook, retargeting them in the Google Display Network, which basically means they're on ESPN.com and now they're seeing a banner ad of something that you are advertising. What is the perfect balance here? So according to the article, again from Forbes.com, over the last 10 years, the pendulum has swung too far to the digital as hyper-targeting side of things at the expense of brand advertising that makes the other 99% potential customers aware of your brand and products. This is the top of the funnel that they like to talk about. This has been observed painfully as customers are being bombarded with tons of ads after they've already purchased the item. This obviously is a huge mistake and difficult to solve this problem. So a good example is I signed up for a masterclass and, I enjoyed it for a bit. But now I'm onto YouTube Premium, and I see ads for Masterclass constantly. The chance of them making more money off of me for Masterclass is 0%, and I see the ads all of the time. So this is obviously a fail. So back to the article, no matter how many ads you show or how well targeted the ads are, customers will not buy 5 quarts of milk when their family can only possibly drink 4 quarts of milk each week. Advertisers need to wake up from the stupor of smoking too much ad tech weed, according to the article, and see that they can't squeeze more blood from that 1% turnip. So basic idea is, okay, you got to go ahead and reach new audiences. You can see just how overwhelmingly complicated this can get quite quickly. If you're trying to do this yourself across, Facebook, Google Ads, SEO, you'll quickly realize that these are specialties. I mean, even myself, if you asked me to run a Google ad campaign, I would struggle to do so because I'm more of an SEO guy. We've got people on the team that are Facebook people. It's pretty overwhelming how much depth there is to each one of these things. So I guess in summary, can you over-target ads? Yeah, absolutely you can. TikTok, to surpass 1 billion users. What does the future hold for TikTok under a Joe Biden-led White House, according to socialmediatoday.com? Big things in his prediction for 2021. TikTok will exceed 1 billion users over the course of the next year. That's the prediction from some place called App Annie, which is an app analytics provider. Quote, they say TikTok has seen sharp growth in active users by amassing a sizable global footprint in 2020, nearly tripling in size since 2018. In 2021, we expect TikTok to not only achieve a coveted spot in the 1 billion monthly active users club, but to sail straight past to 1.2 billion. Wow. So point being that if you are or were wary of TikTok kind of going away with the Trump administration fighting as hard as they were, quick backstory, ByteDance, because it has connections to the Chinese Communist Party, the United States military hasn't been using TikTok for a long time. They don't want that information in the hands of another country, China in specific. And so there was obviously a back and forth there. The back and forth continues. We'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later in the show. But I'm starting to feel more bullish about TikTok remaining a strong entity in the social media space. They are most likely going to be the younger version of Snapchat. And it might be a good thing that they aren't owned by the sort of same companies. There may be benefits to that. They might be more stable. For example, Zuckerberg and friends are constantly being bombarded now by legislation. People are upset about how big tech is dealing with their privacy. In a previous episode, we talked about Parler, which is sort of an escape. It's like the DuckDuckGo, if you will, of social media, you could say. People that are typically on the right. It's conservative dominated. We talked about this at length in the last episode. They're moving to Parler in droves, 500,000 to 4 million users, I want to say, in the last couple of weeks due to the election. So anyway, Super Bowl ads during COVID. This from AdAge.com. Super Bowl ad confirmation pace is on track. So if you're wondering if the big beer companies and gigantic Super Bowl advertisers were thinking about pulling out of ads for the Super Bowl, well, it would appear as though they're on track. According to the article, 3 marketers have already confirmed Super Bowl ad appearances. With WeatherTech announcing its plans this week, Mars Wrigley is also coming back as Anheuser-Busch in Bev, which is not a surprise considering both companies are longtime Super Bowl advertisers. So as of November 10th, the pace of ad confirmations is exactly where it was a year ago. However, Avocados from Mexico has chosen to not spend money. They're skipping the Super Bowl commercial in 2021. It's turning up its shopper marketing for the biggest avocado consumption day of the year. The marketer is reaching out to retailers about a football-focused marketing push tied to the big game, but they aren't going to be in the Super Bowl. So we'll see. I mean, so far it looks like things are fairly normal with this pandemic Super Bowl environment. Comment from Jason Davenport: if TikTok is the younger version of Snapchat, I must be very old because I thought Snapchat was for young people as well, and it is. The demographic of Snapchat is quite young. One of my employees' sons went viral on TikTok. So we're talking like 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds. There's probably a lot of overlap between TikTok and Snapchat, but it is clear that TikTok does cater to a very young audience. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest advertising growth in 2021, CNBC.com. Morgan Stanley analysts outlined Thursday why they believe online advertising can grow 20% in 2021, so they're feeling really bullish about it. Facebook, Google, and Pinterest leading the pack. If I showed you a chart of Pinterest stock over the last 3 months, you will be kicking yourself wondering why you didn't invest. Third quarter earnings by tech giants like Facebook, Google, Snap, Twitter, Pinterest, and Amazon showed digital ad revenue come roaring back in recent months. Morgan Stanley raised its 2020 and 2021 ad forecasts by 8% and 15% respectively, expecting 11% year-over-year growth in 2020 and 20% year-over-year growth in 2021. So basically, the stay-at-home remote work environment has clearly driven up the numbers for your Facebooks, Twitters, Pinterests. I am less bullish about Twitter. I think they're going to have monetizing issues. I think Facebook demographic data is so strong, and I think Pinterest has long been undervalued. So those two I feel really bullish, and Amazon is obviously a behemoth, at least in our house. You know, every day is Christmas. Amazon is constantly delivering wonderful things to our doorstep. We are a big fan of Amazon here in the Couchman household. So Facebook extending the political ad ban. This from theguardian.com. Facebook has announced it will extend its ban on political ads in the U.S. for at least another month as it continues its efforts to keep tabs on the waves of misinformation, washing over its platform in the wake of the election. Now, I get why they're doing this. I actually ran a YouTube, or I tried to run an in-stream ad for the last episode I did, the one where we talk about the flocking of conservatives over to Parler, and it was banned on YouTube. So a lot of these big tech providers are simply saying, you know what, we don't want to have anything to do with anything. So that's obviously Alphabet, owner of Google and YouTube, talking about banning my particular episode. And if you go back and watch the Parler episode, you'll realize that it's nothing too crazy. I'm not making outlandish claims about the winner or loser of the election. I'm merely stating that there are a lot of conservatives on Parler, and that's enough to get banned nowadays. So the ad ban, back to the article, again, Guardian.com, which started a week before the vote and was initially projected to last just 1 week, frees Facebook from having to make difficult calls about whether individual adverts are potentially harmful to the democratic process, but its extension well into December is sparking concern, particularly in the state of Georgia. So this is weird. If you are in the Georgia runoff election and you are assuming that you're going to be able to run ads and you're being told that all of a sudden you can't, you've got to wonder. Esther Sass commenting, banning general information. I watched that episode. Yeah, it is weird. Now, to be fair, Esther, they're banning the advertising of that episode. So there's a difference between me simply talking about it. You can go back and watch the episode. It's live, but they will not allow me to spend money to promote it, which I think is a bit silly. If you go and watch that episode, you'll realize that, again, I'm not saying anything outlandish. So back to the article, but its extension well into December is sparking concern. Is particularly in Georgia, where the runoff elections will determine if the Republican Party retains control. Quote, we are keeping the ad pause and other temporary election protection measures in place as that result moves forward, says Rob Leathern, Director of Product Management at Facebook. So, this particular move to extend the political ad ban to me is one of the reasons why I think Parler and some of these or rather just Parler in general, has experienced such massive growth. There's a large swath of the population that simply does not want to be censored at all. Let people have their dialogue. Now, that being said, I understand why Facebook is doing this. I get it. They are dealing with a problem that I can only attempt to fathom, which is to say how many political ads are running and how much of it's garbage, and how do you police all that? How do you manage all of that? It's very, very difficult. Quote, back to the article, we know that people are disappointed that we can't immediately enable ads. for runoff elections in Georgia and elsewhere. Leathern said, quote, "It's taken years to build the infrastructure that supports the Facebook ad library and ensure that political ads are transparent. We do not have the technical ability in the short term." That's an echo of what I just said, to enable political ads by state or by advertiser. And we are also committed to giving political advertisers equal access to our tools and services. So it does get a little dicey from the technological standpoint for them. So let's say, for example, they were to allow certain states to run ads and then they made mistakes, and the algorithm allowed for people to pretend that they were in the state of Georgia using like an IP mask, and then they were running political ads in other states. There's just a million different things that can go sideways. It's above my pay grade. So the reality, I think, is that the social media platforms nowadays are simply saying, you know what, throw your hands up and we'll just extend the ban, which is unfortunate. Last but not least, TikTok's savvy court maneuvering. Okay, so TikTok is still here. Trump administration was doing its damnedest to take them out, as far as I can tell, or at least lower the price so that a Walmart Oracle buy of the U.S. territory could take place. Seemed like a giant business negotiation to me, as far as I could tell. So this is Forbes.com. TikTok is still here, used by almost a third of Americans. It's a big deal. Roughly 700 million people around the world, and ByteDance still owns it. So how did they manage this? Mostly through some fortuitous court maneuvering. An 11th hour decision by federal judge in September issued a preliminary injunction against the first Trump executive order, concluding several weeks of widespread speculation about whether TikTok's time was up or not. The legal match was much more than expected. As it turns out, TikTok had pursued a two-front legal strategy to combat Trump's second order. Obviously, they're breathing a sigh of relief given the current state of the election. The company had filed its own court documents to fight the order and encouraged users to do the same. The latter course was what actually delivered the crucial victory. After 3 TikTok users filed litigation against the federal government, a U.S. judge ruled last month against Trump's second order and temporarily blocked it. So if I'm a user on TikTok, I feel like I'm just being caught in the crossfires. And that would be very upsetting to me if I was making decent money on TikTok and all of a sudden I'm being told that it might be shut down completely. It's hard to port over millions of users to a new social platform. You can just beg them to move over, but it's obviously much easier to simply keep the platform alive. Another comment, Esther Sass writes, "This info just makes me want to stay away from the social media platforms. Is that just my age group?" Actually, the largest age group of growth, I want to say, is it's like 50 plus on Facebook. So it's funny because if you talk to kids that are 18, 20 about their Facebook, they'll say, "Oh, I haven't touched that in 5 years." They don't use it. That demographic is definitely on Snapchat, Instagram. That tends to be the vibe. But that's also why Parler is existing. Maybe not particularly for the Esther Sasses of the world, but for folks who find themselves enjoying the conservative perspective. So, in summary, can you overtarget ads? Yes, you can. Be wary of trying to milk that 1%. If people are coming to your website, you continue to retarget them. You continue to try to squeeze that lemon, so to speak. There's only so much you can get from them. And then when it comes to branding, that's a tough game. If you're a local person, just make sure you're geo-targeting. If you're in Vegas, stick to Vegas. Even Vegas can be tough because think about it. How many tourists do we have coming in and out of this city every day? So even targeting Las Vegans can be tricky because you want to target folks that live here permanently. So if you live in a tourist area, that can be challenging to run your brand. But the truth is everyone's trying the super intense over-targeted ad. You may want to broaden your scope a bit. If your ads aren't working, you may be over-targeting. TikTok likely to surpass 1 billion users. Yep. So they are a platform that you may want to continue to consider for advertising. Superbowl ads appear to be running as normal. Only one notable exception, avocados from Mexico, deciding not to join in. We'll see if the NFL continues to make as much money as they have in years past. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, advertising growth. Morgan Stanley, very bullish on Facebook, Google, and Pinterest, Amazon, etc., expecting significant growth. Facebook extending their political ad ban. I would guess this is because they simply don't have the technological wherewithal as it currently stands to, in the short term, knock this out. At least that's the reason they are giving us. And TikTok stays alive. They're just trying to get to January 20th and see what the Biden administration has in store, I imagine, is what their particular strategy is. Well, thank you for the comments, Esther and Jason. Appreciate you swinging by the live show. If you want to join us for the live show, troll me on chat, leave a comment. 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time is when you would do that. Type in marketing as a foreign language into YouTube, and voila. Leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. I do want to hear from you. If you have any specific questions about marketing, you can email me directly, info, that's info@senditrising.com, info@senditrising.com. I can also tell you about my favorite new hot sauce from Costco if you want. Anyway, you can give us a ring, 702-263-0141, or download the podcast, available on Spotify, iTunes, and 14 other podcast platforms. Again, thank you to Esther and Jason for swinging on by the show today, and we will see you all tomorrow. Farewell. Oh, class dismissed.